Alright guys, the building in front of us is the South African Planetarium, on your right here. And next door to the planetarium is our company gardens. The company gardens is when we're talking about Jan van Riebeeck, that kind of history. So 1652, when Jan van Riebeeck came to the Cape, he needed to have a garden where he could grow his vegetables and fruit for the sailors. So what you see on your right here is our company gardens. And then next door to the company gardens, when we get around the corner, you'll see it more clearly, is our parliament, the South African Parliament.
Saturday, no, I so stressed, so slow. I was trying to get midweek, like, when I was the guests.
Alright guys, just behind the silver car in front of us, if you look to your left, there's two benches. Alright, this is now a nice illustration of how South Africa was back in the 50s to the 60s. If you look at the first bench, if you look at the bench on the left, it says whites only. If you look at the bench on the right, it says non-whites only. So you're going to get to see that in South Africa, apartheid was all about segregation and separation. So if I was a black person wanting to come into this building, I would have to sit on the bench on the right. If I was a white person, I would sit on the bench on the left. The sad thing, or the funny thing, is we're all going through the same door, but we have to stand and sit in separate lines. So like I'm saying, apartheid is about segregation and separation. Segregation and separation in all spheres of life. So you're going to get to see that our schooling, we were separated. Where we went to church, where we lived, where we went to the beach, anything in the city and around the city was separated according to race. Remember at the very beginning we spoke about black, white and colored, and that's what we're going to get to see today. Famous church on our right hand side, St. George's Cathedral. This is where Desmond Tutu used to practice. And Desmond Tutu is being known as the father of the Rainbow Nation. He is passed on, and he's actually buried inside the church. Church on the right, and then just next door to the church, this is the back side of our parliament, the South African Parliament, the white building. The building in front of us, this is known as our slave lodge. So that is all our history when it comes to slavery. So you'll see that South Africa is divided into three. We've got colonial history, which is all the slavery. We've got apartheid history that we're going to go see today, and that's what you get to see around the city as well. All the influences that have been in South Africa. So a lot of the buildings, some of them are English style, some are Italian style, some of them are Dutch style, and that's all the influences that we've had throughout our years in South Africa.
ayiyo because jonga ubone lokho kuchip kanjani le weekend abantu basikhokhile abantu banezinto
Alright guys, the building on our right hand side is the City Hall, quite a famous building, but I see they've got an event here happening tonight, or tomorrow night. But if you look, wait, what's happening? Hello? Right, if you look on the right there, you would have seen Nelson Mandela standing over there. City Hall is an important place. When Nelson Mandela was released from prison in 1990, people hadn't seen him for 20 plus years, and when he was released, this is the first place that he did this is the first place that he did his
speech
to the masses.
Sure.
Yeah, sorry about that. So when Nelson Mandela was released from prison, out in Drakenstein, so close to the area that we're going to be at today in the Winelands, this is the first place that everybody in South Africa got to see him. That was in 1990. He did his speech from there, and then from there he moved on to Johannesburg and the rest of the country doing the talks. If you look on your left now, this is oldest standing colonial building. This is the Castle of Good Hope, built in the time of Jan van Riebeeck as a fort, for the sailors that had traveled from the east to the west. Hello?
Like I'll check out later on. So now we ain't hard at it.
Alright guys, the area we're driving through now is an important area in why we have townships in Cape Town today. This particular area is called District 6, and it's called District 6 because it was the sixth district from the city. So what was happening in here in the 50s, black people, white people, colored people, Indian people, Muslim people, Christians, Chinese, we were all living together in this particular area on your right. So you'll see there's a big open field here that's now currently not vacant with anything. And we were all living here because obviously people were working in the city. When the apartheid government came into power in the late 40s, they then decided towards the 50s and 60s that we are now going to start being separated and segregated according to our race. So if you were black and living here, you were moved to Langa. If you were colored and living here, you were moved to Pontyheerville, Heiderveld, Athlone, and so forth. If you look at the right, you can still see some of the foundations of all the old houses that used to stand here. So it was a lot of townhouses, all scattered in this whole particular area that you see that's completely green. The only buildings that were left behind are those big apartments that you see at the back on your right. Those were left behind because they were funded by the Queen of England. And we did not want to mess up our relations and relationship with the Queen, so they did not demolish those buildings, but they demolished everything that was state-owned. The government was also very strategic, and when they were doing the demolition, they did not demolish any place of worship. So all the mosques that were here are still here today. The church is just over the back here, that's still here. By them doing that, they prevented the rest of the world from being involved in what was happening in this forced removals, as it's known as. So if they had demolished the mosque, for example, then people of Islam could have stood up and fought against that. If they demolished the church, the same thing could have happened. So there was a very strategic move by the government to only demolish people's homes and not any place of worship. The people were given 48 hours to move. If you could not move, you were moved by the government. And then we will see now, when these people were moved, where were they moved to? And that's where we're going to go to and go see the oldest and the first black township in the Western Cape. So everywhere that you see that's green, that used to be housing. So from the top at the mountain and all the way to the highway in front of us. If you look at this building in front of us with on the left hand side here with the orangey red roof, that is a church. So that's one of the buildings that were not destroyed. But all around it, you can see everything else been destroyed. Okay, guys, there's a question up front here. We know that the land was taken away from the people that were living there. That we don't have to argue about. We know about that. So Russell's asking me now, so why was the land never given back to its rightful owners? I always laugh at that because we know what the answer is. It's a political game that these guys play. And if you look at the position of District 6, they don't want to put the relevant people that were there back there. They would rather put Airbnb out there and stick tourists out there and make money from it, because at the back you've got Table Mountain, in front of you you've got the waterfront and the harbour, beautiful views. So that's just my personal take on why they haven't given the land back. You're probably looking at some big developer that's waiting for all the people to pass away that were the rightful owners of that, and then they don't ever have the right to claim. And then they would stick up beautiful apartments and then sell that out as Airbnbs, hotels and so forth, because the position is a solid position in the city of Cape Town. Yeah, this is my take.
I think you're right. Absolutely. Yeah.
It's like we say, they know who was there. They're not disputing that. They know people who moved here.
Yeah.
They know that. But it's all that generation now is slowly ticking off. And then the younger generation, like, they don't even know because they've grown up that side all the time.
Yeah. They're very strategic, you know.
Just showering some time. Slowly.
There's so much out there.
It's crazy. I mean, you look at it and you're like, wow.
I didn't know that all of that, all the green points that you pointed out.
Yeah, all the mosques, all the church,
Yeah,
all that stuff.
they left that. That's crazy.
There's Charlie's Bakery, the muffins.
Yeah.
That's an old Jewish bookshop. Then you've got the Few God Theatre that used to be there.
Yeah.
That's a church.
Oh my God.
Then you've got the church that you see now, then you've got two mosques that are in there. So that shows you have Jewish people, you have a Jewish bookshop,
Yeah.
you have Muslim,
Yeah.
and you have Christians, all living in one area.
Like one area.
It's crazy. That's all the rubbish that's happening. And then we're between the politics, you know, Cape Town and the rest of South Africa, TA, ANC. So it's all that, and at the end of the day, the people suffer.
People still are suffering.
So no matter what, but they have their genders and this one. Yeah, we're going to try that.
Well, Chris, you said everyone was living together there. And where did the white people go?
Above you, devil speak. Devil speak. And even that, those buildings now, it's like retired people that are living in them, and older people. And it's also state owned, so you don't actually own that house.
Right.
It belongs to the government.
Yeah, someone was telling me about Kirsten as well, which was
Simon's Town,
Yeah.
all those areas.
which was such an, I mean, it's one of the most
Prime properties, exactly. All that could Claremont, all of it. So guys, on our left is our state hospital. Quite a famous hospital in the world, actually. If you've ever heard of a doctor by the name of Christian Barnard, Dr. Chris Barnard, the first heart transplant to ever take place in the world took place in this hospital on your left. The first one was a success, but wasn't such a success. But the second one was very successful. The person with the donor heart actually lived on for over a year with the donor heart. Today, apparently, that particular operation is quite easy, and it's a normal, simple operation. But obviously, in the times of Christian Barnard in the 50s and 60s, it was a very a special achievement. But what we don't know is that in that particular theater room operation, there was a gentleman by the name of Hamilton Nake, who was an African gentleman who lived in Langa. But he was never given the recognition of being part of that surgery because of his color of his skin. So only now, as the years have gone on and democracy has come through, we started celebrating Hamilton Nake as an assistant to Christian Barnard in that particular operation. So when you're in the township and you need medical treatment, medical care in South Africa is free. So how it works is, we have clinics in all our townships. If you're sick and you need medical attention, you go to the clinic. If it's something serious that needs specialist care, you then get transferred out to bigger hospitals like these ones that we see. So we've got a few hospitals in the Western Cape, and depending on what you need assistance on, you get transferred to that particular hospital. So that's how medical treatment or medical care takes place in the townships.
Yes, sir. How is about taxes here in South Africa?
Tax.
Yeah.
You want to know about tax?
Yeah, the question is yeah.
Income tax.
Yeah, the income.
Income tax.
Yeah.
All right. There's a question up front regarding tax in South Africa. Quite an interesting one. If you earn less than 55,000 Rand a year, you don't get taxed on income tax. If you earn above 55,000 Rand a year, whatever is over the 55, that's what you get taxed on. So you're going to see when we get into the township, the form of transport that the people are using are minibus taxis. So if you look to your right now, there's one driving across the way, and then straight ahead of us is a minibus taxi. So that's how people get in and out of the city and into the townships. You can see they've just offloaded this lady now. She's probably going to work in Pinelands, and it's carrying on in its route. These guys don't pay tax, which is a big issue to the government, and they've tried to intervene, if you want to call it that, by starting a system of buses in the city, which then you pay tickets, and in that way they have control of the money and they know what you are earning, and then they can tax you accordingly. But with the minibus taxi, it's cash in hand, and there's no formal records, if you want to keep it, of that. So tax then becomes a little bit of a problem. So if you're earning less than 55,000 Rand a year, you don't get taxed. But you have a tax number, but you don't get taxed. So guys, if you look on your left, we're just driven past the golf course and an area of Pinelands. That is a white area. If you look on your right, and you look at Hazendale, that is a colored area, and just across the road is Athlone, also colored. Behind this red building over here is Jan Smuts, is the road, and then behind that is Langa. So remember, when we're talking about the separation and segregation, it's not distances, it's one road separating one race from another. And when we're coming up ahead here, so majority of the black people that are living in Langa, Cape Town, South Africa here are Xhosa speaking people. So our tribe that we belong to is the Xhosa tribe. So when we turn the age of 18 in our tribe, we have to go to what is known as the bush. And this is an area coming up on your left here. where we need to go get circumcised, and then we become known as men in our culture. To be a man in a Xhosa culture means that you can get, when we have traditional ceremonies, you get the nice cuts of meat, so the T-bone steak and the rump and the ribs. But if you have not been to the bush, you would get the intestines, the head and the sheep and the chicken feet and so forth. So if you look to your left now as we're going through here, you will see a lot of plastic tented structures. Those are the young men that spend 4 to 6 weeks in this particular area with that operation. Once they come out into society or back into the township, they are then classified as men in their tradition. You'll see there's quite a lot of tents out this time of the year. That's because it's our big holiday now. So the guys have got enough time to take off at school to be able to come and sit in the bush for 4 to 6 weeks. So I'm seeing much more than what I saw last week. So it's slowly becoming season and it's growing nicely. You'll see that it's a big part of our Xhosa tradition and culture. So guys, this housing project that you see on your left here, this is called the N2 Gateway. Hey. This is called the N2 Gateway, and it's a strategic move by the government to try hide what's happening inside the townships. So what they've done is all the way from the airport into the city, they're trying to build all these houses along this corridor here, so that when the tourists come into CapeTown, they're like, oh okay, everybody's got homes. But what you don't see is just next door to this is what's really happening in and around the Langa area. So all the housing that you see there, those buildings that we saw, those are all state-issued homes. So technically, as a South African, by the age of 18, you're supposed to be getting a house. That's the dream. But obviously that doesn't happen, and we are in Africa, and corruption is very big. So what happens is there's a waiting list, and if you've got enough money, you can jump and put your name at the top of the waiting list. So those are issued by the state. You just have to worry about the water and electricity. So how our electricity works is we have a prepaid meter system that you go to a Somalian shop and you'll tell the guy, I want electricity for 100 rand. That will give you a certain amount of units. You punch it into the box as if you're doing a cell phone airtime, and then you have your electricity. Running water, you get sent a bill monthly, and that's what you would pay. Guys, if you look to your left, informal part of Langa. This is all the shacks that you see. And if you look to your right, that is Bonteheerville. We are on Jans Jakesquareville, and we are separated by the one road. On the left, Black Township. On the right, Colored Township. If you look at the houses in the Colored Township, you'll see that they are a little bit bigger than what you're going to see in the Black Township. That was a strategic move by the government for us not to combine and come together. They made sure that we were always fighting amongst each other as black people and colored people, because black people always thought that colored people had it better, they had the better jobs. So when it comes to jobs as well, as a black person in South Africa during apartheid, you were strictly developed to be a domestic worker if you were a female and a gardener if you were a male. In the colored community, all the work that was related to trade, fishermen, plumbers, mechanics, and so forth, those were all the colored people's jobs. And then the white people could obviously become the professors, the owners of companies, and so forth. So that's how it was also subdivided, even to what jobs we got. That was the way it was divided. So if you see this bridge in front of us, this is the one thing now that's combining the black people and the colored people together. Because if you look to your right, the building with the red bricks, that is the clinic. So whether you are black or colored, if you are in this area and you are sick, that's where you need to be. So that's why this bridge has been built behind us, and that's just to allow people to be able to cross over. Alright guys, on my tours when I come into the township, I always tell my guests, welcome to South Africa. You guys have been sitting in Europe the whole time out in the city, and now you're finally entering South Africa, where you're going to get to interact and meet and mingle with true South Africans. We have finally entered Langa. The buildings that you see on your right here is a school, and on your left, so it's a junior school and a high school. So in Langa, the last time we did a census was 2011. We had 180,000 people living in this particular area with 8 schools. So you'll see that the schooling system takes a bit of a knock when it comes to that. And especially when we had COVID now and social distancing, it was a big challenge. Because the kids in each classroom in the township, you're looking at about 50 to 45 to 50 kids. Straight enough? Yeah. 45 to 50 kids in a class. So when you're talking about social distancing, it would have been obviously very difficult to social distance people in a classroom of 40 or 50 kids. So the housings that you see now is our flats. These are the old flats. And when you go into the museum, you'll see some of the pictures there that are depicting this particular old flats. They've tried to brighten them up with a little bit of history on the murals on the walls, and that's just to add a little bit of color. These gentlemen in the what's this now, in the yellow bibs, they look like they are going to be installing, no, what is that, they look like with plants, so it must be some project to get rid of alien vegetation of some sort or something like that. In front of us here we see a monument, and this is to symbolize the women and the role they played in apartheid. In South Africa we have a Women's Day, which is a public holiday, not a man's day, so that obviously tells you something. If you look to your left here, Bongi, just if you just have the pedestrian for me, please. If you look to your left here, this is the minibus taxi rank, and if you see on the top there, it's all got a number 1, 2, 3, and depending on where you're going, that's what you'll take. Bye-bye. You'll see that the first one says Johannesburg, Eastern Cape. So these minibus taxis are taking you from everywhere in South Africa, around South Africa. If you want to go to the city, this is how you would get in. If you want to go to Johannesburg, this is how you'd move around. So this is the biggest people mover in South Africa. the taxi?
Yeah, exactly.
No, the fares are fixed.
Fares are fixed.
Yeah, the fares are fixed. So into the city, from here, you're probably going to pay about 15 Rand.
Right.
And then from the city into Sea Point, you pay another 12 Rand. And that's how people would normally have to get to work. So this is the business district part of the Langa. So this is where all the shops are. Also our pubs, our bars, and then also our gasoline or garage station. There's only one garage station in Langa. So you'll see the guy on our left here has got some herbs on the floor. So we believe a big amount in traditional medicine. So yes, we have Western medicine, but we also believe in our traditional medicine, which is all the herbs and things like that that we would use for whatever problem that we have in the particular time that we need to sort it out. Education in the township, guys, or in South Africa, is free. So education is free. Kids normally start school from grade R, so that is, my son is now, that's 5 years old, turning 6, and then they will matriculate at the age of 18 if everything goes well. So education is free in the township. Well, in South Africa, not just the township. So this high school on your left here is called Langa High. This is the oldest and the first black high school in the Western Cape. It's obviously the oldest and the first because people were moved here. So then that's why you would find the oldest and the first black township in this township, the black high school in this particular point. This high school played a big role in the demonstration against the Afrikaans language. So when the kids went to school, they had to be taught in Afrikaans. So a lot of these students were going up, and it's called the student uprising, and they started questioning the government on why do we have to speak Afrikaans? Nowhere else in the world can I speak Afrikaans. We would rather be taught in English. So the students then did a demonstration on this particular road that we're walking on, which is called Washington Drive, all the way to the Parliament in town. A few kids were shot along that way, but you never hear about that particular incident in our history. On our left here is our community clinic, and this is for youngsters, for kids, and it's also tuberculosis and HIV treatment is out of that particular clinic. So anybody that needs that kind of assistance, that's where they would go.
country not must be.
Theo,
Yes, sir.
should we bring football equipment now or?
No, you can leave everything on the bus for now.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do, we'll start at the museum, just get a bit of the history, and then from there we'll do a walk and then do the football.
Okay.
All right.
So we coming back and we can